Hey guys, I'm Annika Sabine. I grew up in the Arctic. Please make sure you subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us out. My last memory of human life was from when I was 10 years old. I remembered my mother carrying me out into this icy landscape. The wind was blasting us with thousands of icy crystals, and I held onto my mother tight. But she let go of me and dropped me on the freezing floor. Mama! My mom turned and ignored me. She disappeared, and that was the only memory I had of her. I didn't even know what her face looked like. The trauma of being abandoned in the Arctic had wasted away what memory I had left. So now all I knew was that my name was Annika Sabine. After she abandoned me, I was devastated. But I decided I wasn't going down without a fight. I was determined to survive. I learned how to make a fire out of sticks in the woods left nearby. I learned how to make an igloo to shield myself from the snowstorms. I lived off seal meat and sometimes even polar bear meat. Life was tough and boring until one fateful day. I was about 16 years old. I had just returned from fishing when I noticed that smoke was coming out of my igloo. I felt my heart skip a beat. I hadn't lit a fire, so why was there any smoke? Was an intruder in my home? I sprinted as fast as I could and barged in, my spear in hand. Get out, you! I froze. It was a guy, and he looked about my age. He was wearing a coat made out of bear fur, and as he looked up at me, I noticed his gorgeous brown eyes. Who are you? I'm Sake, the boy coughed. I'm sorry for barging in. Get out! I didn't really know how to react, but I sure as heck knew I didn't want him staying any longer. I'd lived on my own my whole life. I didn't need someone else bothering me. I'm sorry. I needed some warmth. I don't care! You need to leave! But then I hesitated, because suddenly, Sake was leaning to one side, and then he collapsed. I just stood there, unsure of what to do. I had an unconscious guy in my igloo. I could leave him outside to die. The polar bears could have him. I could care less. But just as I was about to drag him out, something made me stop. No, this wasn't right. Why do I have to be so righteous? I wrapped Sake in one of my blankets and fed him some soup while he slipped in and out of consciousness. He had a fever. When he finally woke up, he looked much better and healthier. He told me everything about where he'd come from. My uncle and I used to live just over the mountains there. But 2 days ago, he slipped and fell off a ledge. He didn't make it. Oh, I'm so sorry. My uncle told me I had family in England, and we used to have a radio, but that broke down. I was stranded here, and I was never really the best at survival, so I started walking to look for help. Then, I found you. While my mind was still trying to process what an England was and who radio was, I didn't even understand these words or knew what they were. Noises sounded from outside. What is that? Shh! We stayed quiet and listened, and then my blood turned cold. Well, colder. Polar bears. Oh no! You stay here. No, I can help. I didn't wait to hear him out and left the igloo. I was right about the noises. We were surrounded by polar bears. They roared at me fiercely. I started swinging to try and fight them off, but no matter how hard I tried, they were too much for me. I soon became overwhelmed, and one of them lunged for my throat. I closed my eyes, accepting defeat. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, I heard a squeal and all the polar bears scattered. I turned to see Sake standing in front of me, protecting me from the polar bears. Sake? Sake turned and smiled down at me. I realized just how cute he was. Are you okay? Sake helped me up and we stared at each other for a while. I had the sudden urge to hug him or even kiss him. But before anything more could happen, a plane appeared suddenly, flying really low toward us. Sake and I stared in shock. I'd never seen a plane before. I was speechless. Is it a rescue team? Maybe it... But the next words were snatched by the wind of the plane's blades as they came plummeting toward us. We screamed and dove out of the way, just in time. If we dodged a second too late, we would have been minced meat. The plane seemed to lose control and suddenly it crashed into the icy ground. Oh my God! A giant cloud of smoke rose in the air as the plane sat there like broken glass. Sake and I took one look at each other, then we started sprinting towards the plane. We arrived and searched desperately for any survivors. Over here! I followed Sake's voice and found him pulling out a woman. It looked like she was in her 40s. For some reason, I felt like I recognized her. But I shook the thought away quickly and together we dragged her out of danger. We double-checked for more survivors, but it seemed she had been the only one on board. What do we do now? We have to bring her back home. Sake lifted the woman in his arms and we carried her back. For days, the woman remained unconscious, in a coma of some sort. Meanwhile, Sake and I cared for her. One day, I entered the igloo with some wood cut up in a bundle. As I stepped in, I tripped on one of our blankets and went tumbling, but Sake appeared like some kind of prince and caught me before I face planted. I held on to him and we stared at each other for a while. Our lips were inches apart. I felt myself move closer. Where am I? Ah! We turned to find the woman sitting up in bed, wide-eyed. She looked at us. Where am I? She repeated. I pushed away from Sake and knelt by the woman. You're in the Arctic. The Arctic? Yes. The woman looked at Sake suddenly. Who are you? I'm Sake. The woman looked at me. You're Annika? I was taken aback. How did you know my name? The woman blinked, then suddenly looked away. I heard that guy say your name. Oh. I cleared my throat. Look, you're probably under a lot of shock. You crash-landed in a plane. Do you remember what happened? The woman hesitated. I was flying over towards Greenland. Greenland? It's a country close to here. I'm a journalist, you see. A journalist? Wow. Yeah. What's your name? Mandy Mandy Sandy. Mandy Sandy. Nice name. Mandy soon became a part of the little family we'd built here. Except Sake and I did most of the work. Mandy just sat around like some kind of princess. Mandy, can you help me light the fire? No, I'm so tired from helping out with the fishing. You didn't even do anything. You just sat there and complained. It was very tiring. Why I oughta... Sake held me back. Don't. Just ignore her. But she's so annoying. I know, but if we want to survive out here, we have to work together. Fine. Sake could be so righteous sometimes. It was so annoyingly adorable. The next day, I had to say goodbye to Sake. He was taking a trip to the eastern end of the valley to look for more food since we were experiencing shortages after Mandy joined us. He would be gone for 2 days. I was dreading it. Just be safe, okay? Sake pulled his bag over his shoulder, smiling his beautiful smile. Of course. Try not to murder Mandy, okay? I'll try. I hesitated, then I hugged him tightly. Before we pulled away, I gave him a quick kiss on the cheek. He smiled and brushed my forehead with a finger. See you soon. I waved goodbye. Where's he going? Mandy must have just woken up. I groaned inwardly. Great. Now I was stuck with Her Majesty Mandy. He'll be back soon. How soon? What did she care? 2 days. I looked at Mandy strangely, then grabbed my own bag. I'm heading to your crash site. I'll be back in a few hours. Why are you going there? Was it just me or did she sound a little panicked? Just looking for supplies. Jeez. What's with all the questions? I said goodbye and took off. For some reason, I felt like Mandy was hiding something from me. Half an hour later, I arrived at the crash site. Plane debris still scattered on the ground. It was so creepy. I started rummaging through anything that looked salvageable when I came upon what looked like a purse. This must be Mandy's. I opened it up and sure enough, it had something that must have been money, credit cards, and an ID. I glanced at the ID, but what I saw made my blood run cold. Instead of the name Mandy Sandy like she told us, the ID said her real name was Mandy Sabine. Sabine! That was my last name! Why did Mandy have the same last name as me? Was that a coincidence? No, it couldn't be. The fact that she lied proved that she was hiding it from me. But why? What? Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Mandy. I knew I recognized her from somewhere. Mandy was my mom. You shouldn't have come here, Annika. I spun around. Mandy. My mom? She stood there grimly. You're... Go on. Say it. You're my mom. Mandy smiled, but it lacked all warmth. Yep. But I don't understand. Why are you here? Why did you abandon me? Mandy sighed. She turned to me. Because I hated you. I winced. I hated you and I didn't want you. You ruined my life. I could have been a model of Victoria's Secret fashion show. But no, you just had to come along and ruin my body. I worked as a journalist instead. A stupid, boring job. But one day, my work took me over to the Arctic. That's when I saw my chance. I dumped you here like the worthless thing that you are, and I left you. And I don't regret my decision one bit. You're a monster. It's nothing personal, just business. But why are you back here then? If you hate me so much, why did you come back? Mandy rubbed her face. That's the only annoying part of my plan. You survived. You weren't supposed to do that, you know. Now you're all over the news. Some satellite or something spotted you here all on your own. I knew I had to come back and dispose of you before anyone found out what I did. Dispose of me? Oh my God, my mother really was a monster. How could I be related to her? Yep, sorry, honey. Mandy lifted a spear from behind her back. The world will never know. Suddenly, anger coursed through my veins. How could life be so unfair? No, I won't let you win! I stamped my foot on the ground, but as I did, a crack appeared beneath me. Mandy froze too. She looked at the crack, which was quickly spreading and widening by the second. She backed away. I looked around and realized suddenly that we were on a frozen lake. How could I have missed that? Mandy backed away and stumbled, sending more cracks into the fragile ground. Mandy, wait! I screamed as suddenly the floor seemed to disappear and I plummeted into the icy water below. I screamed as the cold bit into my skin like razor-sharp blades. I managed to push up and grab onto the ledge of the ice, but I couldn't pull myself out of the water. Mandy, help! Mandy just stood there and watched me as I flailed about, fighting for breath. Mandy, I'm your daughter! Mandy looked away. I'm sorry, Annika, but I can't let you ruin my life. My mother turned around, abandoning me yet again. I lost my grip on the ice and fell back into the water, fully submerged. Black filled my vision. I was drowning. As I drifted closer to death, my mind went to Sake. His smile, his kind heart. I would miss him. Then, a hand grabbed hold of my collar and yanked me out of the freezing water. I gasped for air as Sake rescued me, pulling me back onto the surface. Annika! Sake took off his coat and bundled me up in the warm fur. My teeth chattered as I looked at him gratefully. Thank you, Sake. But my relief was short-lived. Suddenly, Mandy appeared, brandishing her spear, and she charged right at us. Ah! Mandy bulldozed towards us, but she slipped on the ice, and instead of killing me, she dropped the spear and fell headfirst through the hole in the ice. Mandy! We scrambled to rescue her, but by the time we got there, she was already gone. Sake grabbed a hold of me and held me tight. I closed my eyes. So long as Sake was here, I was all right.
Hey there, I'm Alexis and I'm from Cantavinia. Now, if you think that's a made-up country, you're totally wrong because I'm the queen of it. Growing up, life was pretty strange. One time, when I was 2 years old, I was at a grocery store with my parents when suddenly 5 men dressed like ninjas burst in and tried to grab me. Ah!
Get away from my daughter!
One of the ninjas grabbed me and started to run away with me in his arms. Mama, Papa? No, Alexis! I bit on the guy's hand and he dropped me. Why, you little? His next few words were snatched from his mouth as 2 bodyguards jumped in and knocked him out. More bodyguards arrived and dealt with the other ninjas. And before long, I was escorted away from the grocery store with the eyes of everyone on us. Someone in the crowd scoffed angrily.
I wonder who those people are.
His wife then said, "They must be movie stars or something." When we got home, I asked my parents what had happened, and they told me not to worry too much about it. I was too young to really understand what was happening. That is, until I turned 15. My parents took me to the circus for my birthday, and it was in the middle of a trapeze act when something really weird happened. The trapeze artist did 3 flips in the air. Gasps erupted in the crowd as we watched the man move with awe. But then suddenly, mid-air, I saw him make eye contact with me. His eyes lit up as if he recognized me. Queen Alexis! With no warning, the man swung off the rope, soaring into the air before landing right in front of me. All the eyes in the crowd were on me. The man fell to his knees, his hand enclosed over his heart, and said, "I will forever be at your service, Queen Alexis." Whispers spread through the crowd as everyone wondered why this 40-year-old man was bowing down to a 15-year-old girl. My dad stood up quickly.
Let's go, honey. I can't have you around these people.
Then we left the circus as soon as we could. That day, we moved from that town and started up somewhere new. When we arrived at our new house, my parents sat me down and told me the truth.
There's something you should know.
The more and more they talked, the more and more my mouth opened in shock.
You, Alexis, are queen of Kansavenia.
Canty what now?
Kansavenia, it's a very small country in Europe.
But how? What?
I'm sorry we had to keep this a secret for so long, but we did it for your own safety. Kansavenia is under siege now. It wasn't safe for us to live there anymore.
Your grandma was queen of Kansavenia, but when you were born, she passed away and she left the crown to you. For now, it's too dangerous for you to return to Kansavenia, so that's why we've decided to hide you away here. But that doesn't mean there aren't bad guys still after you.
But I don't want to be queen.
Honey, you have to. Your country depends on you.
No, I won't let you decide what I have to do. I won't be queen.
But
I want to live a normal life without bodyguards or royalty. Please, Mom, Dad?
oh, I don't know.
At least stop with the bodyguards. No one will know I'm here. I'll keep a low profile. I just don't want to be followed by bodyguards for the rest of my life. I want privacy.
Oh, all right, dear. Fine, no bodyguards. But just stay safe, okay?
Of course. Thank you.
We love you.
I love you too. The next day, I started my first day at the new school. When I walked into the classroom, no one so much as looked at me. I felt so lonely. As I walked towards the back of the class, someone stuck their foot out and I fell face first onto the floor. Everyone started laughing. I turned to find this super attractive girl laughing at me evilly.
What are you looking at?
I wanted to fight back, but I shouldn't bring any attention to myself. I bit my lip and hobbled over to my seat at the back. I realized this year was gonna be miserable. Well, so I thought. Psst. I ignored the sound, thinking it wasn't directed at me. Hey, psst. I finally looked up. It was a boy sitting in the chair beside me.
Do you have a pen?
Oh, yeah. I rummaged in my bag and gave him one. He chuckled.
You like Barbie?
I was confused for a second. Then I realized I'd given him one of my old Barbie pens from ages ago. Oh God, how embarrassing.
Nah, it's cool, I dig it.
Thanks.
What's your name?
Alice. Even though my real name is Alexis, my parents and I agreed it would be best to use a fake name to hide my identity.
Thanks, Alice, I'm Luke.
It's nice to meet you, Luke.
Hey, you're new here, right?
Yeah.
A bunch of us are going to the bowling alley tonight to hang. Wanna come?
Sure. I stand corrected. Maybe this year wasn't gonna be as miserable as I thought. Later at the bowling alley, Luke helped me pick out an aisle and I threw the bowling ball down the lane. I haven't been bowling in so long, so unsurprisingly, the ball went straight into the gutter. Luke smiled sympathetically.
Aw, better luck next time.
I smiled. But suddenly, we heard this high shriek of laughter that sounded more like cats screeching.
Oh my God, that was pathetic.
I looked up. It was the girl who had tripped me before at school. She had blonde hair pulled back so tight, I was surprised it didn't fall out.
Seriously, who are you and why are you even here?
Oi, Trixie, leave Alice alone.
Ooh, Luke and Alice sitting in a tree. Kiss.
I lost it. Shut up, would ya? Trixie smiled evilly.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Your Highness.
My heart literally froze. What did you say?
Huh? What is up with you?
Why did you say Your Highness?
It's a saying, you idiot. Wow, you suck at bowling and you're an idiot. You have horrible tasting girlfriends, Luke.
Come on, Alice, let's get out of here.
Luke escorted me away. I was relieved. It seemed what Trixie said had just been a coincidence. No one was onto me. I could relax. Luke didn't seem to notice how weird I'd acted, and he actually asked me to hang out with him the next day too. We met at the park, and the first 3 hours were amazing. We laid on the grass, gazing at the clouds, had hot dogs, and skipped stones at the lake. It was perfect. Well, almost perfect. Until something crazy happened when we went to watch a game of soccer that a bunch of people were having on the field. Luke and I sat together, and I could feel his arm next to mine. Slowly, our hands started to reach towards each other when I heard a huge bam, and someone screamed, "Look out!" Too late, I glanced up to see a football shooting towards me. It was too late to move. I was gonna get hit when Luke suddenly punched the ball out of the way, saving my face with just seconds to spare. Luke, that was insane. Seriously, those reflexes were crazy.
Oh, the look on your face!
Trixie, what is your problem?
Oh, you two lovebirds make me sick. Why don't you gaze into each other's eyes somewhere else?
Trixie, seriously,
Luke, it's fine.
But Alice,
Luke, I tilted his head towards me and pressed my lips onto his. Everyone watching us gasped, and I heard Trixie squeal with rage.
I can't believe these two!
And walk off. I didn't care though. All I cared about was Luke, the perfect guy right in front of me. We kissed for a while, then said goodbye and promised to hang out again. We started dating officially, and weeks went by. On our 1-month anniversary, Luke took me to a candlelit dinner by the lake, and I decided it was time I told him my secret. Luke, I love you, and I have something to tell you.
what is it?
I'm a queen. Luke nearly choked on his orange juice.
What?
I explained everything to him. It was hard for him to process, but eventually he accepted the fact that I was the queen of an entire country in hiding. I was actually surprised that he believed me so readily. But I guess that's what made him an even more perfect boyfriend. The next evening, I invited Luke over to have dinner with my parents. When we arrived, I could tell my mom was really impressed.
What a charming, handsome young man!
My dad also really liked him and kept clapping him on the back, which was a sign that he approved of Luke.
Oh, we're definitely going to have to keep this one around.
I was so happy. But then something weird happened.
Oh, Andrew,
Luke said.
I couldn't agree more. And you too, Julie, you're absolutely right.
I froze. How did Luke know my parents' names? As far as I could tell, they'd never told him their names. I definitely hadn't told him their names, so how did Luke know? I decided to brush the thought away and didn't think much more of it. The next day, I was in Luke's room. We were watching a movie, and then Luke went up to the bathroom. I paused the movie to wait for him, but I must have accidentally clicked something else because suddenly a file showed up on his laptop. I started reading and realized it was a file on me. It listed everything from what I had done that day to what I had eaten for breakfast. It was so creepy. Why did Luke have this? Was he following me? Oh God, was Luke a stalker? Luke returned and froze.
What are you doing?
What am I doing? What are you doing? Why do you have all these files on me? Luke, you have to explain what's going on.
I can't, Alice. There's a reason for this, I promise, but I can't tell you what it is. You gotta just trust me on this.
Are you kidding me? No. You either tell me or we're through.
Alice.
Luke stood there motionless. I couldn't believe it. Goodbye, Luke. Alice, wait. I bolted from his room and ran all the way home. I didn't speak to Luke for the next couple of days. My parents knew nothing about our breakup, so they couldn't understand why I was so sad. I could hear them downstairs.
What's gotten into our daughter?
I'm not sure, but do you think this can be too dangerous to have her here? Should I ship her out to a different country?
Days led on to weeks, and I couldn't take it anymore. I had to see Luke. Maybe we could work this out, have a talk and get through it. I walked over to his house after school and looked into his window. But what I saw shattered my heart into a million tiny pieces. Luke and Trixie were together in his room, and Trixie was hugging him.
Oh, Trixie, thanks for coming over. I really needed someone to be here with me.
Don't worry, Luke, I would never pass on a moment like this. So now Luke was a creep and he was cheating on me. And with Trixie? Seriously? I was frozen. I couldn't move my feet. It felt like they were glued to the ground. Luke and Trixie broke apart. Then Luke spotted me through the window. Alice, wait! Hot tears trickled down my face. I spun around and started running. I didn't know where I was going. Suddenly, dark, brooding clouds rolled across the sky and down the rain came heavily. I rushed to a bridge and hid underneath to escape the rain. It was cold and wet and I was shivering uncontrollably. Could life get any worse? Turns out it could. Suddenly, out of the shadows, appearing like ghosts, at least 10 people dressed in black appeared. I suddenly recognized their outfits from the time when I was 2, when ninjas had appeared at the grocery store. Oh no, they'd found me! I was ready to accept defeat when out of nowhere Trixie appeared. Trixie? Don't worry, Your Highness, I'll protect you. Then, like some kind of karate kid, Trixie started to fight off the ninjas. She hit them one by one, pulling roundhouse kicks mid-air, karate chopping them until they were all unconscious. I was flabbergasted. Trixie had just beaten 10 ninjas all by herself. What was going on? Suddenly, Luke arrived.
Alexis! Oh, thank God, you're okay!
He hugged me tight, but I shoved him away. He had called me Alexis. How did he know my real name? You, explain. Luke looked sad.
Okay, the truth. The truth is, your parents hired me as your bodyguard.
I couldn't believe this. So, us? Our love, it's all a lie?
No, that's the thing. Well, at first, I was hired to date you and protect you at the same time.
I can't believe.
But then, once I got to know you, I realized how kind and funny and smart you are. I fell in love with you. For real.
Luke, I don't know.
Oh, please, Queen Alexis.
Trixie approached us, her hands bloody.
Luke is head over heels for you.
But in your room, you two...
Us?
Luke chuckled.
Trust me, Trixie and I are not a thing.
Hey, not so fast, Luke. I have feelings for you too, but I'm willing to step down. Anything for our queen.
Trixie!
So, you're my bodyguard too?
Yep.
I can't believe this. My parents are such liars.
So, Alexis, Alice, whoever, I don't care. Will you forgive me?
Oh, Luke, I can never say no to you. I kissed him, and it felt like I was the queen of the world. Hi, my name is Ayala, and I'm from Spain. I never thought my mom would try to control my love life, but boy, was I in a surprise. Before I continue my crazy story, please like and subscribe. Growing up, I was an only child, and my parents owned the largest makeup company in the city. When I was 5 years old, my entire world turned upside down when my best friend, Andy, told Dad that he saw Mom kissing Mr. Johnson, the mailman. Dad was devastated. You see, Dad was ill, and I really thought Mom loved him. He kissed me goodbye, told me he loved me, and left for good. Mom has hated Andy ever since. Andy and I were inseparable, even though Mom tried to keep us apart. We kept our friendship a secret and actually started dating in high school. Andy and I were in our last year of high school, and I couldn't wait to leave home and go to college, so Andy didn't have to sneak around. But what Mom did next left me speechless.
Ayala, I invited Andy over for dinner. I think it's time we deal with unresolved issues.
Before I could object, Mom continued.
Now go upstairs and freshen up. Throw on something nice.
At 6:15, the doorbell rang.
Ayala, could you get that, please?
My mind raced and my stomach churned as I opened the door. Before me stood a slender 6'2" black-haired, godlike version of Jason Momoa. He was holding a bouquet of flowers.
Ah, Emmanuel, I see you've made it. Come in, come in.
Emmanuel smiled and handed me the flowers.
Ayala, go put that in some water, will you, dear?
As I was pulling a vase from the cupboard, the doorbell rang again. I heard the door open and Andy greeted Mom. I stumbled awkwardly into the living room.
Well, now that we're all here, let me get to it. Ayala, I know you have some type of feelings for this boy, but I think you're making a grave mistake. You can do so much better than him, like Emmanuel.
Mom! I grabbed Andy's hand. Are you crazy? Mom pulled out her phone and pressed play on a video. My mouth dropped. Andy, what is this? I showed him the video. Andy was kissing another girl. With widened eyes, Andy turned to me. I never... Never what? Kissed her? Let me guess. Your lips fell off and ran to hers?
Andy, I think it's time you left.
Mom walked towards the front door and opened it. Andy looked at me and without saying a word, he left. How could you? I ran up to my room and cried myself to sleep.
Emmanuel's cute, isn't he?
Mom eyed me over her morning cup of coffee. I shrugged my shoulders as I grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl.
With Andy out of the picture, you and Emmanuel can now date. This will be a perfect opportunity for my company. Makeup meets models.
Mom, you broke up Andy and I so you could get the perfect opportunity for your company? I can't believe you. I was about to storm off when Mom grabbed my arm.
You are not going to mess this up for me. You will date Emmanuel and you will like it. I need his uncle's money to boost the company.
As I walked through the hallway, someone grabbed my hand and pulled me into a classroom. Babe, please, tell me you didn't believe your mother. Andy's confused eyes searched mine. I hugged Andy. Mom is trying to get me to date this guy to help with their company. We've always dated behind your back, so this isn't new territory. Just a few more months and we can leave this place forever. I nodded. Andy pulled me into a kiss and I melted in his arms. I'll see you tonight at our spot, okay? That night, as I sat on the park bench waiting for Andy, Emmanuel sat next to me. What are you doing here?
Well, according to your mother, you are my girlfriend, and I'm here to take you out on a date.
It seems as though my mother misinformed you. I already have a boyfriend. I got up and walked away, but Emmanuel fell into step next to me and tried to hold my hand, but I pushed him off.
Whether you like it or not, you belong to me.
Emmanuel leaned in for a kiss. I belong to no one. I slapped Emmanuel's squarely face. He raised his arm to return the slap, but someone knocked him to the ground. It was Andy. Both boys fell to the ground and limbs flew everywhere. After a few minutes, two joggers separated them. I grabbed Andy's hand. Babe, please, let's just go.
You'll pay for this.
Emmanuel sputtered as he wiped the blood from the side of his lip. As we walked back home, two police officers pulled up next to us and one of the officers hopped out of the car.
Are you Andy Monroe?
Yes, I am. Without hesitation, the officer handcuffed Andy. What are you doing? Why are you arresting him? The officer ignored me and threw Andy into the back seat. Then they drove away. Immediately, I called Mom, and what she told me made me glance at my phone in shock.
If you want Andy released, you will date Emmanuel. If not, I will make sure that Andy is lost in prison forever. Stay right where you are. Emmanuel will be there in a few seconds to pick you up.
The phone went dead, and sure enough, Emmanuel pulled up in a black sports car. Reluctantly, I hopped in. The night was spent with Emmanuel talking about something he loved most in this world, himself, while I nodded and grunted responses. As we exited the restaurant, something caught the corner of my eye. Dad? I mumbled.
What was that, babe?
Nothing, I said as I hopped into the car. I must have just imagined it. At school the next day, I looked everywhere for Andy, but he wasn't there.
He's not here, you know.
What are you doing here?
Well, I told Uncle Ray I wanted a transfer, and since I always get what I want, here I am.
I sighed. At least, do you know if he's okay? I tried calling him, but I didn't get any response last night.
He's fine. He and his family left town last night. With him out of the picture, you can focus on me. Everything in me wanted to wrap my fingers around his throat, but I knew my mother. She'd make my life and Andy's life living hell if I tried to see him again. So I decided to go with the flow, at least until I graduated from high school in a few months. Over the next few weeks, I was engulfed in Emmanuel's life as a model, the dinner parties, the events, and the lifestyle. Mom was happy, and once Mom was happy, everyone was safe. After my last class, my phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number told me to check my locker. Hi, babe. Are you ready for our first photo shoot today?
Emmanuel draped his arm casually around my shoulders. Startled, I quickly shoved my phone into my pocket. I just have to collect my book from my locker, okay?
Well, I'll walk you there.
It's a surprise for you. So, meet me at the car, okay? I fluttered my eyelashes at him. As soon as Emmanuel walked away, I headed to my locker. Inside was an envelope. The contents of the envelope made my head swirl. There were about 10 pictures of Mom, all in wedding gowns standing next to men. Each photo was dated. The last was dated about 3 months ago. As I walked away from my locker, a wave of dizziness washed over me. I pushed the photos into my bag. Who were these men? Mom traveled a lot, but she always said it was for business. I took a few more steps before I felt myself crashing to the ground. I woke up in Emmanuel's arms. His eyes bore traces of concern.
Ayala, what happened?
Emmanuel helped me to my feet and pulled me close to him as we slowly walked out the building. I don't know.
Let's get you home.
Once at home, Mom was furious that I couldn't make it to the photo shoot. I was surprised when Emmanuel informed Mom that if I was forced to attend anything, she'd no longer have a contract with his uncle's company. They agreed that she'd go while Emmanuel spent the evening with me. Thanks for sticking up for me, I said as I curled up on the sofa.
No problem. How about we watch some TV?
Emmanuel switched on the television and I gasped when I saw the 2 IDs pop up on the screen. One was Andy's ID.
Earlier this afternoon, there was an accident on the Solomon Hachoy Highway. Both persons died upon impact.
I felt as though the fabric of my world was unraveling, and fast. The next few days were blurry, but Emmanuel was supportive through it all. He was different, sort of sweet, not the usual self-absorbed person that I met a few weeks ago. A few days after Andy's funeral, I was preparing to go to Mom's company's largest event of the year. Mom went ahead and Emmanuel was on his way to pick me up. The doorbell rang and I opened it. I recognized that it was the girl from the video Mom showed me with Andy.
Auntie wanted you to have this.
She handed me an envelope and walked away. I closed the door and opened the envelope as I wiped the tears that fell onto my cheeks. There was a letter in it written in Andy's handwriting and a photo.
Dear Ayala, I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but I needed to get all the facts first. The man in the picture is your mother's first husband and your biological father, Sidney Cole. When he passed away, your mother had him cremated the day after he died. Soon after, she met your father and married him. Your father never knew you weren't his. This is not the first man that has had an untimely death after marrying your mother. We have found 10 other connections so far with your mother. I sent those pictures to you previously. We were able to get a blood sample of one of her victims when we found a poisonous substance in his blood. This substance was also found in your stepdad's blood. There is more to this story, but that part is not mine to tell. Soon you'll have all the pieces of the puzzle. I hope that one day we can rekindle what we had. Forever yours, Andy.
My legs felt like wet noodles and my hands trembled. I couldn't believe what I just read. My mother was many things, but for her to be... No, I couldn't accept it. About 30 minutes later, Emmanuel and I arrived at the event and Mom had just given her speech. People applauded and so did I. However, I didn't stop when the others died down. I kept clapping as I walked towards the stage. Emmanuel grabbed my arm.
This is not the time or the place.
I pulled away from him, storming onto the stage, and stood behind the podium in front of the mic.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's enjoying the party.
A loud roar came from the crowd.
I just have one question for my mother. Why did you do it? Why did you kill all of these men?
I opened the envelope and threw the pictures into the crowd.
Security! Get me security! Get her out of here!
The security guards grabbed my arms and tried to drag me off the stage.
Get your hands off my daughter.
My heart stopped. Dad? The crowd gasped as Dad, followed by Emmanuel's uncle and the strange girl, stepped onto the stage. Emmanuel's uncle flashed his badge at them and they took their hands off of me.
What's happening here, Ronnie? What are you doing? What's happening here is you're being arrested for the murder of 10 men. Thanks to my blood sample, we were able to connect all the dots.
Ronnie looked at me.
One thing the letter forgot to state was that Sydney Cole had a 22-year-old son named Ronald Cole.
Ronnie winked. What? You're my brother?
And this is my daughter, Maxine.
When Dad died, I was deep undercover on a case. I didn't realize Dad passed away 6 months ago. Dad's body was also cremated the next day, and when Dad's sister said they wanted an autopsy, they were overruled because his wife said no.
Dad chimed in.
After I left your mom, I went to a specialized health facility. That's when we first found traces, but I didn't think much of it until I realized your mother was getting married and leaving bodies behind, and she was their sole beneficiary. I'm sorry I stayed away this long, honey.
Dad hugged me.
Let's all meet up for dinner at my place tomorrow night. We have a lot to catch up on.
Ronnie escorted Mom out of the building. I walked off the stage and exited the building with Dad shortly after.
Hi.
I spun around. With the bouquet of flowers, Andy stood behind me. Dad kissed me on my cheek and walked a few steps away. Andy, how? My arms flew around his neck and I kissed him.
I had some help.
Emmanuel nodded in our direction before he left hand in hand with Maxine. Wait, what?
Everything was planned. Emmanuel is Maxine's boyfriend. We just needed a hook to get close to your mother, and with large sums of money in play, your mother took the bait.
And do you have a hook to get closer to me? I traced a finger along Andy's jawline.
I always do.
We kissed. After Andy pulled away, I looked into his eyes. So, was the video with you and Maxine real?